All right, so let me start at the start of our class by showing you this. Some of you saw that I posted on Google Classroom a couple of assignments, and I want to make sure you understand that they're clear to you. There were two things I posted. The first thing was something I should have done a couple of days ago. Literally just, Nate, remember how you didn't hear what I said orally last time? So listen. Literally just commit yourself to which of the three things you want to do for your project. So you're writing 3 words on that answer. You are going to either write Land of Punt, and Kingdom of Kush, or Kingdom of Axum. Just pick one. What are you going to do it on? The second one is the assignment that is due on Monday, and it is not the whole project. The project due dates were split into 2. This is just the research. Just the research. Just the bibliography and the 10 or more facts. The reason I want it turned in on Google Classroom is so that there's no pressure on me to return it to you, because you need that stuff for your creative project. So turn it in on Google Classroom by Monday, and then the next deadline for the actual project is not until early March. And that is either a brochure or a travel-log video, which you can do solo or with others. Yes?
So we're doing like the group video. Do we all need to post our...
Each one of you needs to turn in a bibliography.
Does it have to be different, or can it all be the same?
Well, every single person in this room is allowed to use the sources that I posted online.
Okay.
So, yes, if your whole group uses the same sources, that's fine. But each one of you needs to read them.
Yeah.
Each one of you needs to write facts, and each one of you needs a bibliography.
Do all of the facts need to be different?
I do not care about that. It's as long as you are not copying and pasting things from the sources. As long as you're putting them into your own words, just doing all the normal things, it's fine. Do they need to be different? Well, not necessarily, because there might not be that many different things that you're saying. But you also don't need to coordinate that they're the same. Just do the work. And do your own reading, do your own sort of fact gathering, and then you can go on and do the creative together if you want. That's fine.
Okay.
But the do your research is literally just like read 3 different sources, write the bibliography, write the answers up, just do that stuff first. Yes?
So for like the 10 points, can we use the handout you gave us? You know,
What-
like
what on the
fill in
handout?
blanks? Like this?
No, that's not a source. You have to actually get your facts from sources.
Okay.
And this, I listed for each one of those kingdoms, I listed 3 sources on a post on the Google Classroom stream. So that stuff that I gave you is very overview. Those are not your facts. And you couldn't get 10 facts out of that anyway. I didn't tell you that much stuff. I just gave you the very highest level stuff. That's why you're doing research, Josh, so you learn more stuff. I want you to know more than that, not just that. Any other questions about the project? Okay. Second thing up here, well, second 2 things. First is that you do need to read 2 lessons, 71 and 72. You do not have to do any note cards. We will do the note cards on Monday in class, because I have something different I want you to do with your time. And at the end of class, I will give you 2 handouts. They're articles. They are a reinforcement of today's lesson. I had you warm up for today's lesson. We're going to do work on today's lessons, and then I want you to review today's lesson. It's really important, and I want to make sure that you know the basics of that. So you're going to read 2 articles, and you're going to annotate these articles. And I will show you the articles and show you the directions on those at the end of class. That is why, even though you will read lessons in prep for Monday, you don't have to do any note cards on it. That's enough work, I think. Any questions about the work? All right, so let's go on, and I'm going to introduce you to somebody new today. She is a famous poet. This is an old picture, so this is not a person who's still alive today. Can anybody guess who would be an old, like a poet from the colonial era. You think you know?
Yeah, but I
You can't remember her name? Do you all know? Okay. This is Phyllis Wheatley. Have you heard of her?
Oh, yes.
Nope.
You have?
Yes, I've heard.
She might have
I
heard of
do.
Phyllis Wheatley.
Yes.
She really is rather famous.
So
She's a
cool.
poet. She was a poet and a missionary. She was born in 1753. Now, if I say late 1700s, who else do you think of? Who else was alive during that time? Alexander Hamilton, sure. Who else? Like, what else do you think of? George Washington. All right, so all of that, colonial Williamsburg is, it's that sort of area of kind of your brain that we're talking about. So Phyllis Wheatley was born in 1753 on May the 8th in West Africa. As a child, she was kidnapped along with a bunch of other children, and she was taken to Massachusetts, where she was sold as a slave to the Wheatley family. You can see there where she died, December 5th, 1784, in Boston, Massachusetts. She did not have a very long life, did she?
31.
Yeah, it's a pretty short life. She did publish poems when she was young. She was 14 years old when she first published. So kind of like, how in the world in such a short life was she a rather famous person? I'll say she was sold to the Wheatley family. The Wheatley family, as was not utterly uncommon, did give her some instruction in reading and writing and discovered that she was brilliant. She was a really, really, really smart girl. So it didn't she still had to be a slave, but she also got some education and ended up becoming just really precociously smart and able to be a fantastic poet. I'm not going to read you one of her poems today because, take this the right way, they're too hard for you. I would have to spend half the class just reading it and explaining it to you. It's like her poems are like as complicated as Shakespearean sonnets, but longer. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I'm going to show you one thing she wrote, but not a poem. But she was famous with a book of poetry, her first book of poetry, poems on various subjects, religious and moral. She was noteworthy because of three different things. First, she was the first American slave to ever publish. Second, she was the first person of African descent at all to publish. And third, she was only the third colonial woman who was published at all. So she was sort of like a groundbreaker in a lot of different things, being at the front end of this. Now, I told you she's also a missionary. The mission part of it's pretty interesting. 1774, she started working with this mission to Ghana and Sierra Leone. And you might be like, well, what was she doing? Well, it was just spreading the gospel back in West Africa, but in a really interesting place. This resettlement project in a place that was called Freetown, Sierra Leone, was a place that freed slaves were sent when they went back to Africa, which some freed slaves were sent back to Africa. But guys, think about the circumstances of being sent back to Africa. So you're sent back, but you don't know anything about your family because it wasn't like somebody kept up with records. Your entire village might have been wiped out. You don't necessarily have anything to go back to. And if you're like a second, third generation slave, you honestly like have no recorded family heritage at all. And then when people went back, they were vulnerable to being recaptured, kidnapped again, and sold back into slavery, which might be the worst possible experience if the traumatization of being twice sold into slavery. So Phyllis Wheatley was participating with some people who were doing mission work in this place that worked for the gospel spreading in that town. Phyllis Wheatley was a really sharp writer, and she was, this is not unusual, but she was attacked by the trolls of her own day. Y'all know what online trolls are? What are they?
People will criticize you for
Yeah.
no good reason.
Are they people who know you?
No.
No. It's just like random people who just are gonna bully you online for whatever, for something. So she was attacked by some person she didn't know for not having good character or something like that. And the writing I am gonna read you is her response to this guy. Now, even though this is the simplest thing I could find, I'm still gonna have to define a few words for you so you can follow what she's saying here. So this is her response to the man who was attacking her. I challenge this white-faced, white-livered enemy of modern poetesses. It will be a black affair for him if he ever comes under my lee. Under my lee means under my influence. For I will have no mercy on a man who stands up against me on that score. I am a match for the stiffest pedant in the Republic of Letters. Now, a pedant was an insult. She was insulting him because she's calling him an annoying scholar who hyper-focuses on really small things. He holds up his crest, no doubt, with confidence, as he has hitherto met with no rub for his impudence. So no rub means no pressure for his disrespect. In turning up the frail part of us female poets, but I would have him draw back in time and not plunge too deep into a subject whose bottom his short line of understanding can never fathom. So she's basically calling him stupid here at the end, having a short line of understanding that he can't even fathom the subject that he's talking about. All right, I know this is a funny jumping off place for an opening prayer, but when I was thinking about Phyllis Wheatley, I was thinking she is somebody whose creativity was unstoppable. Her intelligence and her creativity, even under these super hard circumstances, it couldn't be repressed. It just came out. And it made me think that how important creativity is for helping us get through hard things in life. So I'm going to say an opening prayer for us with that in mind. Dear Lord, I want to pray for these 8th graders as we're starting this day today. And I want to pray for them that they will find ways to tap into their own creativity. Whether it's music or writing or building things or however they like to use some of the spare time, I just pray that you'll help them and give them creative outlets that will be unstoppable when things get hard in their life. Just help them to be like Phyllis Wheatley, sharp and able and capable and able to advocate for themselves when they need to in the future. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, we're starting today with the map quiz. And I need you guys to either leave the homework out. You're going to adjust that if you need to later. But I'm going to give you the word bank unless you want to do it without. If you want to do it without, then get a blank piece of paper and number it 1 to 20. Otherwise, I'm giving you the word bank. Write your name on the word bank. You do not write on the map itself. I need the maps back. Those of you at home, you can take this map quiz now and get it from a parent or whomever. And if you want, you can pause the video or you can just forward the video to when we pick up at the end of it. I'm handing out the maps part of it. Note, please, that I wrote the peninsulas in a darker writing and I outlined them. Everything else is in purple numbers, and I did sort of clump things together. So all the rivers are together, all the mountains are together, sort of together in numbers. The peninsulas are together. So I think you should be able to figure out what's what. When you get the map, you can go ahead and start. finished. So I would like for you to all take out your notes. Like I had told you, you are allowed to make corrections on your homework before I take it up. So actually encouraged to make corrections on your homework if you need to before I take it up. So let's start with the homework, and let me see. The first question was, what was the first question? What's a Republican government? Probably the only one that was overtly in the chapter, and even that you might still need to make a little bit of a correction too. So what is a Republican government? Wesley.
A government where people are allowed to vote so that someone will not.
Okay, it has to do with voting so a ruler doesn't dominate. Anybody have anything else? Josh.
In which political power rests with the public through the representatives?
Oh, very good. He's telling us who we're voting for. You're not just generally voting, you're voting for representatives who are going to help govern. That really gets to the heart of what Republican government is. Okay, the second question, how is the United States, which one did I put first? Republic? How is the United States Republican? Zach?
Because you elect your rulers into office, and how the government's not one king. It's
Yeah.
a bunch of officials that are working together.
That's super. Although I might not use the word ruler. I might go with like leader, representative, something like that. But yes, the idea is exactly right. Micah?
I put the United States Republican because we have elected representatives that hopefully represent the best interests of the people.
Yes. Perfect and perfect. Okay, and how is the United States Democratic? How is the U.S. Democratic? David? I thought that you were waving your hand at me. Do you have something written down?
I said the people can choose who gets elected.
Oh, you have nailed it. Elsie?
I said also there's a team of people, the president isn't the only thing, isn't the only person.
Yeah, there's a balance, there's a spreading out of the power, but like the fact that people do what is the really heart of democracy? Voting, yeah, the fact. So you weren't wrong, because you're basically getting at the main part of it, which is that people are voting. Yes, Wesley?
So just the ability to vote.
Yeah, to make for the regular normal people to get to help make decisions by voting. That's what would make us democratic. All right, could you please get out the piece of paper, hold this in front of you, the one that says at the top Roman monarchy, Roman Republic, Roman Empire. We're going to start with this piece of paper. All right, and as you're looking at it, I just want you to see first to orient you. Across the top, that's on the handwritten page. Across the top is the flow of Roman history. Roman history started with a monarchy. What is a monarchy? King rule. What are other names for monarchs besides a king? What are other, like we've had other cultures that call them something different. Like what? Emperor, right. And emperor, that still kind of falls under monarchy. What else could it be? A ruler. What was it in, we just said Persian Empire. What did they call their king? The Shah. The Shah because he was the king of the kings. So there's lots of different ways you can talk about it, but a monarchy is going to be the powerful rule of one person. That's how Roman history started, just like every other country we've studied, basically. Yeah, exactly. But then something changed, and this is the point in history that you read about and that we are currently studying in chronology. And it was that the Roman Republic started in 509 BC. lasted until 27 BC. So nearly 500 years of the Roman Republic, followed by another 500 years of the Roman Empire. That is, well, sorry, 8th graders, but that's next year's history. That is the history of around the time of Christ. You know, if you've heard of like the persecutions of the Christians, the early Christians, Nero, and you've heard about those early, you're hearing about the Roman emperors. So something changed in 27 BC that switched the Roman government to starting to function as an empire. But that's not what we're talking about today, which is why the arrow comes down from the Roman Republic. See my little red colored arrow? I colored mine in. Because everything else on this page is about the Roman Republic. So let's look for a minute at how the Roman Republic was organized. The Roman Republic allowed people to vote. That is true. Now, all of this is stuff that was really, really, really unusual during this time in history. Allowing people to vote? Who did that? But not only that, the Roman Republic had a complex government with, and I'm just going to tell you this because it's a lot of different things to add there, with elected officials and a constitution and laws. All that stuff goes in the blank. Okay, so the Roman Republic allowed people to vote for elected officials, and they had a constitution, and they had laws. Who does this sound like?
Our government.
Like our government, right? We have a constitution, we have elected officials that people vote for, we have laws. Now, we have not, up to this point in history, talked about anybody, any culture that elected their officials that I can think of. Can y'all think of anybody? Have we talked about any cultures that had a constitution? No. But we have talked about cultures that had laws, of course. We talked about Hammurabi. We talked about some other cultures that developed laws, but a lot of times they were really erratic. They were based off of whatever the ruler wanted. There was a tyrant who was enforcing them, using laws to hold the empire together. Mm-hmm.
It's not the book of the law.
Yes.
All of the followed that one. Just like
Yes.
the ruler was saying you have to do this. It was like
Right. Was Israel's government a monarchy or a republic or an empire?
monarch.
Yeah. It's not a trick question, but it was a monarchy, but it was a monarchy without a person at the top. Who was the king? God. God is the king. But yeah, like structured like a monarchy, but with laws for sure. All right.
612 or 670 laws they had to follow.
There was a lot of laws. There were a ton of laws. All right, so the Roman Republic was organized like this. You can see on your chart that there's a kind of a triangle organization. At the top, there were two consuls. The two consuls, this is, you might think like, well, aren't they basically doing the same thing? No. The consuls were really unusual. They only served for 1 year. You might want to circle or underline that word one. The consuls were there for 1 year, and even though they were very powerful, guess the power they had? They could veto each other. Do y'all know what a veto is?
They could basically just say no.
Yeah. Somebody wants to do so, the other person goes, nope, veto.
Yep.
There's veto power in our country, too. Veto power, we have it on the state level and on the national level. You'll see it on the state level because the state government can pass all the laws they want, but the governor can just veto them. If he doesn't like the laws, he vetoes them. Now, they can override his veto and make the laws go into effect anyway, but you have to have a pretty high margin, like 2/3 of the people have to agree to override a veto. So it's a fair, veto power is fairly powerful. So at the top you have two consuls, but they're only serving for a year. Underneath that you have the senators. Now these consuls were pretty much senators who just rolled through and took a year at the top position. But the senators themselves served for life. For life. They were the advisors to the consuls, but they also were, this was their career. This was their whole life. They were the ones who served in the government. Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Could the consuls veto the other one's veto?
Wow.
Well, they had to agree.
No, because I think you have to veto a law. I don't think you can veto a veto.
Ah.
I think that's.
Well, because usually one person is saying another one, so it's like, I think he's saying like, if the one person says, let's make this law, the other guy overrules that, and then the other guy's like,
Well, then I think it would, like, they could go back to it. No, like, I don't think they can. But they can only serve for 1 year, so all you have to do then is wait for them to roll off, and then they can pass the law again.
yeah, they had to fully agree to.
How that would go.
Let's talk.
Yeah. All right, the third level, after the senators who served for their entire lives, were the plebeian council, also known as the assembly. Here is the thing that you really literally have not heard of in world history, I don't think. The plebeian council was made up of common, normal people. Have we studied any country that let the commoners help rule the country? Mm-hmm.
Is there any like thing that should go in the two little lines under senators?
Oh, no.
I think I was just decorating it, and I'm sorry that it looks like that's a blank.
I understand that.
I don't even know why I did that, to tell you the truth.
It does look good, actually.
Wait, you drew?
Well, do you see how crooked it is? Yes, I drew it by hand without a ruler because I'm not actually that particular.
It is coming.
All right. All right, so the plebeian council was common people. They also passed laws. So you see this functioning of the plebeians together, the council together, and the senators. And then the very last thing, which makes this whole thing even more interesting, is at the bottom of this whole stack, and the most of the people were tribunes. These were the plebeian council's representatives that could veto who? The Senate. So you have the consuls can veto each other. The tribune can veto the Senate. The Senate's advising the consul. You see how it's like, whoop, it's all mixed up together. The whole point of this is that the Roman Republic was established. You see my very crooked picture at the bottom. It was established as a system of checks and balances. The Roman Republic assumed that government needs to have checks and balances. That is sort of the base of the Roman Republic. Now, this is where it gets interesting because we're going to draw from here and then look at our own country, which is the second page of notes. Yes, feel free to decorate the pictures when you have extra time. Or I'd like Elsie to redraw my pictures to make them actually
I love your
straight.
picture. I just like the color.
Yeah. All right, so looking at the second page, much like the Roman Republic, the government that functions as the United States government also has a system of checks and balances. It consists of 3 different branches which function together as a system of checks and balances. Checks and balances goes in that first blank. It's built into our government system. Built-in checks and balances. And I think you guys probably know, at least somebody in here knows what these are. So let me ask you. The first branch is headed by the president. What is that branch called? Executive. So the first one is executive. That's the president. The president gets to be a whole branch by himself. So there's checks and balances, but you can see why the presidential election is such a big deal. A person gets to be a full one branch of the government. Now, He does not have all the power because he's checked by other branches of the government. Nevertheless, the president, he or she, has a lot of power. Second branch, Congress, is the what branch? Legislative branch. So the legislative branch is Congress. Congress is made up of two parts: the House of Representatives and the Senate. So, like, I was circling some of these. Just unlike some of my worksheets, I do actually want you to know all of the things on this paper. So, not just the ones that are in the blanks. So the legislative is made up of both representatives and senators. In the final branch, the Supreme Court is in the judicial branch. Okay, we are skipping the graphic, going to the bottom, then we're going to come back to the graphic. So skip over and let's go down here. The United States is a republic. The United States is a republic because we elect representatives to make laws. This is if you haven't yet made sure that your homework is correct, this is the heart of what it is to be a republic. Yeah. This is the heart of what it is to be a republic. You elect representatives to make your laws. The people that we elect then make the laws. So both the Congress and the president are our representatives. You know what that means? They work for us. We, the people, are the ones for whom they serve. That's why they are called public servants. They do not work for themselves. They work for the American people. If we feel like the representatives are doing poorly, what should we do? We're responsible to do what? Vote them out. Vote them out. We are not helpless in the face of our elected officials. You ever hear anybody complain, oh, the government, they never get anything done. They're such terrible people. Okay, vote them out. We have a job to do as the people of the United States, and our job is to vote people out or vote people in. They serve us. Second point, the United States is also a democracy because we actually do vote for some laws, like majority vote for things. We vote for addendums to the Constitution. There are certain things that we straight up vote for. And we also vote for the people who make the laws. As a result, it is expected that the people who are voting should be educated. You should be educated group of citizens. What this means is that we also cannot say, oh, well, our government's just run by a bunch of crooks. Oh, whose fault is that? It's our fault. We are supposed to be educated and help elect people who are going to serve the country well. That's the task of an educated group of citizens. Now, the next point here, we get the idea of democracy from the ancient who? Democracy. Greeks. Democracy comes from the ancient Greeks, and we get the idea of a republic from the ancient who? Romans. So the democracy comes from the ancient Greeks. The republic comes from the ancient Romans. But America is a democratic republic. Hyphenated word. America is a democratic republic, or as Benjamin Franklin famously said, it's a republic if we can keep it. We will lose our republic if we, on purpose, elect people who want to be tyrants and we allow that. It is against the essence of a democratic republic to allow people to take over. Don't put that away because I want you to look at this chart. Okay. Mark each one of these corners with the branch of government that it is. The hat, is the president, so we'll call it the what branch? Executive. The House over here is Congress, so we'll call it the what? Legislative. And the scales are judicial. So mark those as executive, legislative, and judicial, and let's look at how they check and balance each other. Here is the president. His check on the Congress is if he thinks Congress has passed a bad law, he can veto it. He has the power by himself to veto legislation. But Congress has power on him too. If they think he is not doing his job, they can impeach him. To impeach the president is to put him on trial. If he is actually convicted of that trial, he can be kicked out. To impeach, though, the word impeach means to put on trial. So that's their checks and balances. Here's the checks and balance this way. Congress also has the power to impeach judges. If the judges are being irresponsible, if they're not doing what they should do, if they're not following what their job is, they can be impeached. Even though they serve for life, they can be impeached by Congress. Congress can declare, the Supreme Court can declare the laws unconstitutional. That's its whole job, is to declare things constitutional or not constitutional. On the other checks and balance, the Supreme Court can also declare something the president does unconstitutional. That's its check on the president. Declare its presidential acts unconstitutional. And the president has power over the Supreme Court because he nominates the judges that serve on the Supreme Court. All of these function together as checks and balances for our country, which really makes our country a magnificent example of a democratic republic. Okay, I want to reinforce this by reading two articles, which I expect you to annotate. You're 8th graders. It's related to your grade, 6, 7, or 8. 8th graders, I want you for each article to underline at least 8 important things and to write in the margins at least 8 important notes about these. So you're annotating by marking up the article as you read it. Those of you at home, you should either have picked it up as a handout or you will have it sent to you by email. Yeah, this was on your homework. This is the thing I said, don't do note cards, do this instead. The articles are front and back, and there's 2 of them that you're doing. Yeah, you write in the margins, you underline, you write in the margins. That's what annotating is. And that is all we have today. Does anybody have any questions before you go? Okay, good job.